Hello, I'm Amy Zaby with the Jerusalem Connection Report Red Alert for Wednesday, March 14th. Singers take a stand. Excuse me. You may remember a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that New Zealand pop artist Lorde succumbed to the pressure of BDS activists to cancel her tour date stop for 2018 in Tel Aviv, Israel. Well, U.S. pop artist Azealia Banks, after receiving the same pressure from likely the same groups to cancel her spring 2018 tour stop in Tel Aviv, not only brushed aside these requests, she has actively made statements against these measures. And I quote from her post from social media. "My fans in Israel have been waiting for me to come for years. I too live in a country which has issues, but I cannot hold my fans responsible for our country's problems and deny them the right to a good time. We connect through music and love." She continued on to say that the double standard of BDS is obvious as supporters who are holding Israelis disproportionately responsible for political events compared to the citizens of other nations. Banks went on to say in unequivocal terms that giving into the BDS movement would be singling out Jews for a boycott. And I quote, "My canceling my concert would be totally anti-Semitic, and I'm never ever going to make my fans feel like they don't have a place in my heart. I'm going to Tel Aviv to rock out with my fans, and that is the end of the discussion." This was on her social media site. An interesting follow-up to Lorde's decisions to cancel her stop in Tel Aviv and her continued being under fire for caving to that pressure is that Florida State Representative Randy Fine has called for the state of Florida to, in response, cancel Lorde's appearances in both Tampa and Miami, as those venues are state-run. Florida passed a statute in 2016 that bans the state from doing business worth more than $1 million with any company that participates in the BDS movement. In November, Representative Fine introduced a bill to waive the $1 million threshold, and that is still in debate in the Florida legislature. So we are still waiting for follow-up to see whether Fine's request for banning Lorde at her two appearances is going to be honored or not. However, similar and unsuccessful efforts have been made against other anti-Semitic or BDS activist performers, include Roger Waters, and his concerts throughout the United States have gone pretty much as planned, even though he's far more vocal and outspoken on BDS movement. What is amazing to me is that a young artist can take a stand, while many artists are also taking the same stand. Nick Cave, Ringo Starr, Radiohead, these artists all appeal to a slightly older crowd, but are also active in opposing the BDS measure. And what I am glad to see is that Ms. Banks, who appeals to a younger generation, including the college school generation, these college-age students need to be aware because of the various BDS activities going on college campuses. Ms. Banks is a refreshing voice to the contrary. It also amazes me that this young American pop artist can see more truth than an old Norwegian parliament member. After the leader of the far-left opposition group called the Red Party in Norwegian's parliament, Bjørnar Moxnes, he actually nominated the BDS movement as a whole for a Nobel Peace Prize. The anti-Israeli boycott, divest, and sanction movement works against peace and does not deserve to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, as expressed by Likud MK member Sharon Haskell. And she wrote the Norwegian ambassador to Israel, Mr. Bauer, and several other Norwegian lawmakers her opposition to this nomination. She goes on to say in her statement, BDS is not a peace-seeking movement. On the contrary, it's anti-Semitic and seeks to demonize the state of Israel, undermining all peace processes. She also added that there's nothing peaceful about delegitimizing a country's academic, cultural institutions, which are all critical in creating an environment for peace. It is clear that BDS' ultimate goal is to destroy the state of Israel. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East that is actually yearning for peace with its neighbor and affording equal rights to its citizens, irrespective of their color or creed. The Norwegian ambassador noted in response that the Norwegian government actually does oppose boycotts of Israel and does not support the BDS movement. The Norwegian ambassador also continued in his statement to say that the Norwegian Nobel Committee is an independent body and is responsible for seeking Nobel Peace Prize laureates. Thousands of people worldwide have the right to nominate candidates, and hundreds of candidates are nominated every year. The Norwegian government is not actually implied in this process. Many pro-Israel advocates, though, took to social media to express their disdain about this nomination. BDS takes on many forms, culturally, academically, artistically, economically. Often these sectors intersect. And while BDS proponents are maintaining a drumbeat of humanitarian intent, a diverse cross-section of worldwide citizens are recognizing it for what it is: anti-Semitic and discriminatory, with no true intent for peace and no true intent for the betterment of the people living in the region of all origins, Arab, Jewish, and otherwise. Some thoughts to ponder. Enjoy your music this week. Shavua Tov.